Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is my Iman YouTube channel and welcome all of you. The rise and fall of the great Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan was established as an Islamic movement by latest great leader Mullah Muhammad Umar Mujahid on 24th of June 1994. Islamic Emirate has gained support of the elite ulama, scholars, mujahideen, and people, which enabled the movement to rapidly take over 95% of territory of Afghanistan and kept the pride to be the only hope for Muslims in the country and around the world. The movement has been struggling to install a pure and real Islamic system, Sharia law, in Afghanistan. As a movement, Islamic Emirate has Amir al-Mu'mineen al-Sheikh Maulawi Hibatullah Khunzada as the leader, Amir. Under his leadership, Deputy of Emirate, Leadership Council, Judicial Force, different executive commissions, and administrational structures are functioning, which enables Islamic Emirate to effectively operate and hunt its multidimensional goals. As soon as the establishment of Islamic Emirate was announced, pious ulama, Taliban, and mujahideen from different regions and ethnicities have started to join. The rich Afghans and businessmen have made commitment to financially support the movement. Hence, Islamic Emirate could immediately conquer several parts of Kandahar province without any armed oppositions. Taliban has freed the Kandahar-Spinboldak highway from warlords' checkpoints. The movement, in collaboration with the local Taliban, requested the district governor of Spinboldak to surrender the power, but he refused to do so. Therefore, based on the decision of the Leadership Council, a group of Taliban led by Mullah Muhammad Khund has attacked Spinboldak on 4th of October 1994. After a little resistance, Taliban could enter the city and take over completely with a single casualty of Muhammad Salim Agha's martyrdom, taqabbalahullah. Kandahar is one of the important and historical provinces of Afghanistan. It has been the host of important events and birthplace of great heroes. Ahmad Shah Baba has placed the foundation stone of Islamic State in Kandahar. Jihad against Soviet invasion was initiated in Kandahar, which was followed by hundreds and thousands of martyrs and other sacrifices. After the Soviet forces had been given up and left, militias of Burhanuddin Rabbani and Sabghatullah Mujaddidi, in accordance with the foreign intelligence agencies, have pushed Afghanistan into a catastrophe of civil war. Kandahar, as a part of the country, was affected by the fire of anarchy and lawlessness. Warlords such as Gul Agha Sharzai, Sir Khatib Muslim Ismat, Khan Muhammad, and other thugs were fighting and competing in robbing and raiding civil people. They threatened the pride and dignity of the pious people. Thus, people's patience was finally exhausted and were galvanized to uprise against the warlords. The uprising was called the Movement of Taliban under the leadership of Mullah Muhammad Umar Mujahid against evil and corruption. In 25th of October 1994, the Taliban marched from Spinboldak towards the city of Kandahar. A great tyrant and warlord commander, Mansur, decided to resist against the hollowed army of the Taliban. But with the help of Allah Almighty, he was immediately kneeled down and was captured and executed. The people of Kandahar scaffolded the Taliban uprising, because the core motive of the uprising was formed due to the suffering of the oppressions. Mullah Naqib had the power of Kandahar core and was involved in major unrest in the province. Mullah Muhammad Umar Mujahid warned Mullah Naqib to surrender and leave the power, or to choose the right path. Otherwise, he will be responsible for all the worse consequences he is going to receive. As Mullah Naqib could well predict the consequence of opposing the Taliban, he decided to surrender and transform the power. Hence, the capital of Kandahar was captured without any remarkable resistance. Some of the warlord commanders fled to Pakistan, and some of the others joined Ismail Khan, a warlord of Herat province. The Taliban immediately imposed Sharia law, which was the cost of thousands of Kandahari mujahideen. The citizens celebrated the arrival of Taliban under the leadership of Mullah Muhammad Umar Mujahid. A council consisted of 8 members was formed to run the administrative and military affairs. the council immediately started action and sent messengers to rulers of Helmand, Uruzgan, and Zabul provinces. They were asked to hand over the power to the Taliban uprising made of heterogeneous and multi-ethnic pious people. Helmand was conquered after a short resistance. Uruzgan was also conquered consecutively, and the detained thugs were sent to be imprisoned in Kandahar. Furthermore, the Taliban has also freed Zabul province. Ghazni, which is the hometown of Mullah Mashkalam, who is famous for giving crusaders water in their skulls, was the next target for the moment. Deputy Governor of Ghazni had solidarity with Taliban, so Ghazni was also captured with a little struggle on 1st of January 1995. It should be noticed that Maidan Wardak, a neighboring province of Ghazni, was in the hands of Gulbuddin's militia. Gulbuddin was assigned by the CIA's famous American spy Gray Sharon to fire off the civil war. He was directly receiving a salary of $100,000 per month. When Gulbuddin saw his merit profit being ruined and his subordination to his master crusaders was to be wiped out, he ordered his two most bloody and promiscuous commanders, Amanullah and Zardad, to resist. He sent them to the front line against the righteous army of the Taliban. In the hills of Aruzi between Shajui and Ghazni, they faced the Taliban, who were armed with the help of Allah. A fierce battle was placed, and as a result, the thugs of Gulbuddin fled to Maidan Wardak, and finally Ghazni fell into the hands of the Taliban. On the other hand, the pious leaders of Paktia and Paktika, who were oppressed by the thuggery of warlords, gathered and went to the Taliban in Ghazni. They have decided to join and hand over the power to the Taliban. Following the arrival of the people of Paktia and Paktika, a group of Mujahideen led by Ihsanullah Ihsan went to these two provinces on 9th of February 1995. Therefore, these two provinces were annexed without any resistance. The residents were willing and demanded the Taliban to impose Sharia law. With respect of their wills, the Taliban have issued Sharia law, appointed the authorities, and ensured security. The righteous army of Taliban could not rest and calm down because it was time to force down Khost and let its people live in peace. Khost has already been conquered under the leadership of Maulavi Jalaluddin Haqqani on the 31st of March 1991 from the communists. Although the Crusaders were preaching a lot of propagandas against Haqqani, the situation in this province was relatively calm. The committee of Khost province also asked Maulavi Ihsanullah and his companions to come to Khost province. Eventually, on 19th February 1995, Khost was also annexed to the territories under the leadership of Taliban. The people of Maidan Wardak were oppressed by the militias of Gulbuddin. On the 10th of February 1995, the Taliban attacked Gulbuddin militias and freed Maidan Shar province from these brutal and robbers, and a majority of people joined the Taliban caravan. In this rapid process of conquests, the Taliban started moving towards Logar province on 15th of February 1995. Based on Allah's blessing, Logar was entirely conquered within the same day. In this battle, Charasyab, the main center of Gulbuddin, also fell into the hands of the Taliban. Soon after its conquest, Sharia law was implemented, which fulfilled the dreams of its blessed and knowledgeable residents. The killing of Abdul Ali Mazari. Abdul Ali Mazari was the leader of Hizb Wahdat party. When the Taliban captured Charasyab and Wardak, the supply route of Hizb Wahdat, who were fighting with Masood, was blocked. Hizb Wahdat promised the Taliban that they will submit their forts to the Taliban, and in exchange, the Taliban will let them go to Bamiyan province. When the Taliban moved forward to Masood, Abdul Ali Mazari, who was well known for his betrayal, had already made a deal with the great traitor Ahmad Shah Masood. Their deal was to attack the Taliban from behind. They did the same. They attacked the Taliban unexpectedly, violated the agreement, and remained traitors. 70 Mujahideen of Taliban were murdered, and some of others were captured. Moreover, many other Taliban, including Mullah Borjan, were wounded. Later on, as a counterattack, Taliban has taken control of the area and captured Abdulali Mazari during his attempts of fleeing the battleground. Taliban has decided to send him to Kandahar, so his case was supposed to be more appropriately investigated and judged. During his transfer through a helicopter, he grabbed AK-47 from a Taliban's hand and shot 2 Taliban's dead. He ordered the pilot to move towards Bamyan, but the pilot quickly landed the aircraft in Ghazni. As soon as the helicopter landed, Mazari started running away. The pilot shouted to the people, and the people gathered and started trying to arrest Mazari. Mazari started fighting the people. Eventually, Mazari was killed by people. Ismail Khan's attack on the Taliban. When the Taliban approached Kabul and started to capture Kabul, Ismail Khan gathered around almost 25,000 fighters to invade Kandahar and Helmand and to vanish the core nucleus of the Taliban's movement. He crossed Dilaram and placed at the plateaus of Sangiban dozens of tanks, dozens of artilleries, hundreds of transport vehicles, jet planes, and helicopters were supporting him from Shindand. Ismail Khan told the media that he will soon draw out the Taliban. Ismail Khan's dream seemed to be true because the Taliban were fighting in a very wide area, and it was difficult for them to deal with such a large unexpected attack. On 3rd of April 1995, before Ismail Khan's attacks on Taliban, the Taliban turned back and attacked them responsibly. On the same night, they defeated Ismail Khan so badly that they killed many militias and captured their tanks and equipment. Alauddin Khan, who was the leader of this force, managed to escape in a wounded state. To prevent Taliban's progress, the militia of Ismail Khan gathered again in Dilaram. But the Taliban defeated them successively worse than earlier and crossed them from Farah Road. At that time, 12,000 fighters of Ismail Khan's forces were remained. All the others were either killed, escaped, or captured. On 9th of March, he left Farah Road district and settled near Shaz to defeat Shindand. General Ismail Khan asked Massoud for an urgent support of 5,000 fighters. Massoud sent 2,000 fighters to defend Shindand. There were fierce battles between the Taliban and Ismail Khan, but the Taliban also launched attacks on Farah and Nimroz and captured the provinces. Ismail Khan's second attack on Helmand. When 2,000 fighters of Massoud joined Ismail Khan's militia, Ismail Khan launched heavy ground and air attacks on Farah province on 28th of May 1995. The attack resulted fall of Farah province. 2 weeks later, Ismail Khan also captured Nimroz, and on August 23rd of the same year, he attacked Dilaram. After a heavy battle, he conquered Dilaram until Sangilan plateau of Grishk. 3 days later, Ismail Khan attacked Grishk, but the Taliban repelled his attack. It is narrated that Mullah Muhammad Umar Mujahid, the founder of the Taliban movement, fought bravely in the front line and was acting like a lion. As the result of hard resistance, the Taliban have defeated enemy and captured many tanks, hundreds of vehicles, and heavy artillery. At the end of August, the Taliban reached Chakab. The Taliban once again attacked Ismail Khan, but he ran away to Farah. Mujahideen moved further and captured Farah on 31st of August. After the conquest of Farah, Nimroz was also surrendered, and the Taliban implemented Sharia law, strengthened base, and appointed officials. The people welcomed the Taliban and joined the Taliban movement. When Ismail's militia was defeated in Grishk, they lost the ability to resist and were on their only option of escape. On 21st of September, they also fled from Shindand, and on the same day, the Taliban took over the airport of Shindand. There were 5 jet aircrafts, including helicopters, military cargo aircrafts, and various types of light and heavy weapons in the Shindand division. These were all fell into the hands of the Taliban, and hundreds of young men from Shindand joined the Taliban lines. Ismail Khan left Shindand for Herat, but he couldn't get a foothold there, so he managed to settle in Iran. The Taliban took over Herat on 6th of September and installed Islamic rules, provided peace, and appointed authorities. The same like in Shindand, thousands of heavy and light weapons, dozens of tanks and airplanes were captured. At the end of May, they attacked Ghor province. After a little resistance, Ghor province was also conquered. Zazi district is a border region of Paktia with Pakistan. During Jihad, key groups of Mujahideen were present there. Mujahideen from any regions of Afghanistan used to trespass on this route. On 19th of August 1996, the Taliban conquered Zazi district after a little resistance. After a single day, Torbaba was captured. Next, on 3rd of September, Torbaba squad. On the same day, the squad of Spinishaga was also captured after a little resistance. The Taliban also received plenty of ammunition in squads. Nangarhar was also burned by the tyrant and thugs at the fire of civil war. People came to the Taliban and asked them to come to Nangarhar and free them from the oppressors. The Taliban gathered in Logar's Azra district and moved towards Hisarak district of Nangarhar. The thugs in Nangarhar were also fully prepared to fight in Hisarak. They had placed various heavy and light weapons in the commanding points. When Taliban attacked on 10th of September, the warlords could not get a foothold in Nangarhar, and they chose Torkham as their escape route. Due to their mutual enmity, one of them ambushed the others in Torkham and killed 60 major commanders. And finally, on 2nd of September 1996, Taliban took over Nangarhar without any resistance. The people of Nangarhar warmly welcomed them. The Taliban also imposed Sharia law in Nangarhar, strengthened security, and appointed provincial officials. After the conquest of Nangarhar, Taliban captured the independent resistance of Laghman province on 20th of September. The people of Laghman warmly welcomed the Taliban, declared their full support, and recruited hundreds of young people in the ranks of the Taliban. Peace was settled and Sharia law was enforced in Laghman. As usual, the people of Laghman also welcomed support and joined the Taliban movement. Consecutively, on 22nd of September 1996, the Taliban took over Kunar province after a little resistance. Attempts of Taliban for gaining Kabul. When the Taliban approached the outskirts of Kabul, Pakistan's Jamiat Party's leader, Qazi Hussain Ahmad, started a peace process between the fighters of Kabul, so that they all together were supposed to stop the progress of the Taliban. Likewise, Berdan, the head of CIA in Pakistan, ordered Gulbuddin and Massoud to put aside their mutual enmity and form a combined ambush against Taliban. Berdan had provided hundreds of thousands of dollars to Gulbuddin and Massoud. It was clear-cut fact that they were at that time assigned to fight with the movement which was threatening the Crusaders' proxy plans. Based on their proxy masters, Gulbuddin and Massoud signed an agreement on May 24th. Though they have taken thousands of each other fighters' lives, they have agreed to jointly fight against Taliban. On 6th of July, Gulbuddin has inaugurated as a prime minister in Baghi-Bala hotel of Mahipar. These people, who had never united against the Russians, but on the order of their master, they united against the Taliban and built strong defense lines together in Rishmin Strait to defend Kabul. They also formed a joint defense line against the Taliban on the side of airport. And they also formed a joint defense line in Charasyab. As the Taliban had already gained control on Charasyab, they started heavy attacks on defense lines of enemy. On 1st of November 1996, they captured Khaki-Jabar district and reached Sharkhipul prison and police academy. During these harsh battles, Taliban's first-line commander Mullah Mashar was murdered, so the Taliban retreated to Misainak. But then on the 7th of June, the Taliban recaptured Charasyab. Due to the agreement of Mahipar, the bandits and thugs had built a stronghold against the Taliban in Rishmin Strait. After the conquest of the eastern provinces, the Taliban attacked Rishmin Strait. As a result of this attack, on 23rd of September, Taliban captured Rishmin Strait from Massoud. Gulbuddin and their other allies. After that, the Taliban were going on forward and was taking over enemies' forts, and the forces of violence and oppression were backward to Surabi district. During these battles, the heroic commander of Taliban was also murdered. During these battles, Taliban attacked on Jalbalak front and broke Masood's defense lines. During a series of operations on the Jalbalak, Masood along with his coalition fled to the north. The Taliban reached Surabaya district, and the legs of these crusader slaves were trembling in Kabul as well. On 26th of September 1996, the puppet coalition of crusaders slaves left the city of Kabul without any resistance. Taliban has got the major conquest and saved it from the great traitors and the murder of thousands of Afghans. The Russians' promiscuous spy Najib and his brother were brought out from the office of Red Cross and were put into justice for their past betrayals, as a lesson for the other communists. Both of them were hung over in Ariana Square. So a part of the Crusaders' plan to get back Najib into the power was destroyed. After that, the Taliban imposed Sharia law in Kabul, strengthened security and appointed officials for the public and military affairs. Dear viewers and listeners of my Iman YouTube channel, we hope you liked our today's episode. If Allah is willing, we will prepare the second part of this series as soon as possible at your service. Thanks.
په احترام او خاص پوځي ډیسپلین سره د ځانګړو عملیاتو استشهادي ټولۍ د لوژ له مخې د تېرېدو په حالت کې
قیماتي دي تل دکلات ها قدم چې چانا روا دلته ایښی قدم دا خاوره پردو د مقتل دی سمدم راغلی چې څوک په دې لار دی زموږ